Very weird.
T3 Media.
Through the media.
All right, prepare yourself, guys, for another episode of We Got Your Mail. What is this? This is the show where we collect all of your questions, your comments, your concerns that you've given us throughout the week. I put them through the filter, and to help me answer these crazy comments today is the one, the only, the outstanding Sarah Catherine. How are you today?
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Your first We Got Your Mail. We're gonna let's put you right in the lion's den because we get a lot of comments like, who's the lady with the red curly hair? What's that all? Who is she? And we're gonna answer. If we got that question, we're gonna answer it today. All right. So from let's see. Let's start it off. You have the first one. You want to read that one off to us?
Sure. This is from Eon001. This is about the Britney Spears hearing. Don't know the details of this case, she says. What if she just refused to perform or do what's demanded? Do they lock her up or something? So I can answer this one. I already know the answer to this one.
I had to look it up.
Yeah, her legal team can sue her. Like her own trust, her own conservatory can sue her for breach of contract because they have, what's crazy about this whole thing is they have legal authority to sign her up and contract her to do these performances and whatnot, right?
Wow.
She doesn't have a say in whether or not she'll do them or not. They don't ask her, nothing like that. So they contractually obligate her to do these shows. If she does not do them, her conservatory can sue her for her own money and, impose other restrictions on her. So they really have, like king's rule on her. So they can do whatever they want.
That's crazy.
So, which is crazy because she's considered legally incompetent to even control herself or her surroundings and her own body. So, but they can put her out like a performing monkey anytime they want, and she cannot refuse. Otherwise, they just take more of what's hers away from her, and they'll take away her freedoms. They have control over everything. So,
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, it is nuts. And I looked it up a little bit too, and well, from what I understand, I know that her lawyer can, like, I don't know if this is a stall tactic. I know they can just kind of argue to cease and desist until we can come up with an agreement or something. I know they can try to fight in court, but I'm sure that it's probably, while the conservatorship is in place, it's just probably not going to be in her best interest to say no to things, which is, to me, just like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say it's like modern day slavery, if you ask me.
It is. It's crazy. I mean, she's like a performing monkey, but also her lawyer, she didn't get to pick her lawyer. She doesn't get to, like, anything that she says to her lawyer, the conservatory
has to find
is there.
out.
They have a
Wow.
representative there when she's meeting with her own lawyer, which is not technically her lawyer because she didn't get to decide who her lawyer is.
Yeah, it's all stacked against her. It sucks, but I hope we answered the questions best we could. But yeah, all the while, it's a real messed up deal for her. Real quick, from a longtime supporter to the channel, Drew Cliff 82, he asks, what do you think about the whole Bill Cosby mess? This is a long one, so I'll try to read fast. Who is to blame, and was the court justified in letting him walk? In my opinion, it's terrible what he did. However, the prosecutor made him a deal saying that if he testifies in civil court rather than pleading the fifth, that they would pursue criminal charges. Then they used his testimony against him. They also allowed all those other women to testify when he can't even be charged in those cases due to statute of limitations, i.e. those happened too long ago. It makes me sick what Cosby did, but at the same time, I believe we cannot allow our judicial system to simply do whatever they please. I think they had they had no choice but to release him, and I blame the prosecutor, the DA, for making the deal, and that judge for allowing those women's testimony. You pretty much, Drew, and thank you again, Drew, for the question, for being a longtime supporter to the channel. But you pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's a messed up situation, and I think from within the legal system where they found this loophole what was the situation? They had to honor the original deal that they put in place to get that testimony that he gave. And at first they were going to try to go against that and be like, I don't care about that deal. We're still going to put him in jail. And they did. They put him in prison for a minute. And then they came back and go, no, you gotta honor that deal, which makes everybody. And here's the messed up part about it. Now, people were feeling like, okay, even powerful men are starting to get punished a lot more than they used to. But now it's like maybe they're going to go back to the way things were, where women were afraid to speak up, because look what happens. Eventually, they get let go early, or something like this happens. What are your thoughts?
I think it's sorry, I'm going to curse, but this is a technicality. So, like in a civil court, if you admit to a misdemeanor or a felony crime, you can still be prosecuted for that crime. And the issue, I think the technicality was the way that he gave his confession. He basically confessed in a way that wasn't in court, but it was like a recorded confession. And what they did isn't that right? Right, something like that. His admission.
Well, if he gave this admission, it wasn't supposed to be used against him in the actual court proceeding. But then after that, the new DA was like, no, I'm still going to use it, and they pretty much told him, we had it in writing, we won't hurt you if you confess to this, and we won't use this in court. And then later they just changed their mind and said, oh no, we are going to use it, and then they put him in prison for it.
Yeah, so but the admission of guilt that he did was a pre-recorded thing. Yeah. So I think, wasn't it? It was pre-recorded because he didn't admit to it in open court.
Right.
They recorded him in questioning. So what they did was his lawyer got that thrown out of evidence. Yeah. So his admission of guilt, so now they get to retry him for the whole thing. So if they labeled it as a mistrial, it's just going to go through this whole thing again. Yeah. And the whole point of bringing all those other women up, even though the statute of limitation has far exceeded, is to show serial acts, to show continuous serial acts, same motive, same little steps that he took to show this is a pattern. Right. This is going to continue. So we need to stop him. Otherwise, he's just going to continue doing this. Mm-hmm. So it's the same like serial murderer, serial rapist, because that's what he did. It's the same. It's a whole mentality and mindset. And to me, it blows my mind and hurts me deeply that this man, who has been idolized for years and years and years, and I feel taken advantage of because I grew up watching his show, that he was capable of this. Like it shocks me to no end, and it makes me question everybody. Makes me question everything. Like, who else could have done this? Who else was in such a position of power?
And that's the whole point. So many people, and I'm pretty sure I'm hearing that's what he's doing. He's giving up a lot of people too, and to make it. I also heard that double jeopardy might be in effect here too. That I heard that he could. I'm going to research it more, but I heard that he couldn't be retried. So I'm going to have to look again. But I heard.
Well, if they overturn, was it a mistrial, or did they overturn the ruling?
I'm going to have to double check, because I know I read something that said double jeopardy might be in effect here.
See, double jeopardy only applies you can't be tried for the same crime twice if the original ruling stands.
Right.
So if he's out of jail, that original ruling doesn't stand. So how can that be? The best it could be is a mistrial.
Because he went through the trial, he was found guilty, and he went to jail. But now that he's
released, then now he's out, they're saying that original ruling doesn't stand, so he's out.
If that
so
was
that would
a
have to be a mistrial.
But if that's not the case, then it's you can't be tried for the same. Well, I'm gonna have to double check.
If his original ruling stood, like if he went, say he murdered somebody, went to jail for 10 years,
right?
And they put him in for manslaughter, and they come to find out that later
DNA proves that he didn't do it, or something like that.
Well, no, like if he goes in for manslaughter and it ends up being a deeply premeditated murder, they can't retry him and put him in for another 20 years if he already went in for manslaughter. So we're saying in this one, he's been tried, he was convicted, he was sent to jail. The ruling was he had to go to jail for this predetermined time. That's what the judge decided. He's now coming out So the only reason that he could come out is if they overturned that original ruling. If they overturn the original ruling, that means that he can be tried for this again, because they're saying that first hearing, that first ruling didn't count. So now he's out. Okay. Well, so he can be tried for this again.
I'm gonna have to do more research on it, because I'm not a lawyer, and it's just, and like you said, I'm too disappointed in the man I'm just deflated. But so
Horrible.
Real quick, for the last question, I'm gonna read it real quick because there's a little backstory to it. The question was, do you have any interesting break-in stories that you can share? I shared a story about a break-in that happened. It's on the community tab. You guys can read it. So it wasn't a break-in at my house. It was a neighbor from across the street. They were looking for somebody. They had this person held captured. They threatened to possibly kill her. She got away from them when they weren't looking. She got out the door, ran, screamed to the top of her lungs, and got away. And I shared, and that was like my next door neighbor in this apartment complex, and I shared this story. And somebody wrote in. I said, "Do you guys have any similar stories about break-ins?" And Tom Veloso responded with, "Girl broke into my heart, trashed it, then left." Not quite what I was asking for, but emotionally, any similar stories, like a bad, like a break-in story that you know of, like anything similar to what Tom, like a heartbreak story, or an actual home invasion that you aren't afraid to share real quick before you go?
So no, I feel very lucky to never have had a home invasion, never been put in that situation. Thank goodness. You know, don't want to jinx myself. Thank goodness. So as far as like somebody breaking into my heart, I feel like you have to let them in. Yeah. That's just me. Yeah. Nobody has busted down my big, golden gates right into my heart without me letting them in the door. Okay, right. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's usually a way to blame the victim there, Sarah. But
you gotta let them in. You gotta let them in, and if you let them in, they could. It could end badly.
Is it real? Oh wow, that's so sorry, Tom. But the ruling here stands. Judge Sarah says, not technically a break-in if you voluntarily open the door and let them in. Better to have loved than lost, instead of not loved at all, is what they usually say. So sorry about that, buddy. Sorry that Sarah overturned your ruling of your story. But that's the show, guys. Thank you for another episode of We Got Your Mail. Remember, keep sending in those questions, those comments, those concerns, those stories of heartbreak, and wow, that was tough. We appreciate it. This was Sarah's first one. I appreciate you helping me out with this one and giving your input on it. We know that you're about to get out of here, so enjoy the Guild. Go check Sarah out on her YouTube channel, Within the Guild, where she gets very nerd sweaty, and you'll enjoy all of her talk about Loki and Marvel and things like that. And till next time, guys, peace.
Our supporters help make all this content possible, so make sure you check out our Patreon page so you can help us bring you the content you want.
Push the pedal to the freaking metal. I'm turned up just like heavy metal. Yo. I stay turned up on another level. Push the pedal to the freaking metal. I'm turned up just like heavy metal. Blah.